Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So today's video is going to be my TBR for the month of February. So the past month of January I have kind of come to the decision of what I want to do with my TBRs. And what I'm going to do is I'm still going to play my TBR game as normal and we'll choose like 6 books using my rules from it. But I'm not obligated to read any of those books throughout the month. What I'm going to do then is, while the month goes, we'll put the prompts back into my jar and I will randomly choose them and we will randomly mood read, essentially, for the month. So the books I'm going to choose today are just possibilities of books that I could end up reading for the month of February. And then if I read any of the books that land on February's TBR, it's fine, and we'll see for that way, like, the books I actually end up choosing with my game, and the books I actually end up reading, we'll see what that does. I want to have more fun with my reading this year. I've really discovered that during this month of January, and I want to continue that going forward. So I think that is the best way for me to approach and still play my TBR game, because I love to play, but it doesn't give me the added stress and anxiety of knowing that I actually have to complete and read all of those books in that month, because that is stressing me out. And if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't, and it's totally fine. I can move books and choose books that are from previous TBRs that I haven't read, but only if they've been on the TBR for 2 months. So I can choose the books from January's TBR that I didn't finish in March, if I didn't read them. There is a readathon happening in February that I possibly do want to participate in, and that is Polathon, week-long readathon hosted by Jade from Jade Reads. Who knows if I'll actually end up participating in that readathon, but it's there, it's happening for you guys to check out. I'll link the announcement video to her February round for this year down below in the description box for you guys to go check out. As far as anything else in terms of readathon, that's about essentially it. At least as far as this moment in time goes. If not, you guys will hopefully end up seeing what really goes on in any vlogs and videos that I decide to film. So, yeah. Let's get on to the TBR. Alright. Rule number 1. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is a normal prompt. So, for role number 1, we landed on normal, so I'm going to be choosing a prompt out of here. This one popped out. Okay. And this prompt is Ledian, which is a book with a matriarchy. Role number 2. As 1. Also a normal prompt. Role number 2, we landed on a normal prompt, which means you get to pull out of here again. This one. And that is Farfetched, a book with a crazy magic system. Roll number 3. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is random. For roll number 3, we landed on random. I'm going to be choosing a book out of here. So yeah, get the start. I worked on this a little bit in the month of January, but we won't be adding more books to it until this gets really down to the bottom. So go on new books. I have no idea from because I was making them smaller, but now I'm not anymore. Maybe this one. Is Squirrel Meets World by Shannon Hale. Roll number 4. That's 3. 1, 2, 3. And that is random again. Roll number 4. We landed on random. Means another book out of here. And that is this one. Which is Brother Wulf by Joseph Delaney. Roll number 5. That's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is D20. Okay, so prompt number prompt number 5 landed on D20, which for this one means I get to randomize a D20 die, which I have on my computer there. And essentially what number it falls on, number I crossed off. As you can see, I've crossed off a couple of books on this list. I've highlighted them. Those are the books that I've already read. They're the ones that are on this list. So, yeah, let's roll. Obviously, we have 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Yeah, let's roll. Of course, what I have up here is a D20 die, so it's going to be 1 through 20. So yeah, let's roll. It's 3. That is Legend by Marie Lu. And finally, roll number 6. It's 2. 1, 2. A normal prompt. And finally, roll number 6, which is a normal prompt. And then finally choose one more prompt to add prompt jar. Mewtwo, which is to read an intimidating read. Alright, everyone. So, for roll number 1, we landed on a normal prompt, which is Ledian, which is to read a book with a matriarchy. And for this, I have chosen to read, or to at least put on my TBR, Attack on Titan Volume 2 by Hajime Ishiyama. This is Volume 2 to the Attack on Titan manga series. I have seen the anime way past this point, so I do know what happens in this manga, but I've never actually read the manga before. In November, I was planning on possibly reading the first 4 manga volumes of Attack on Titan, which I do have, but I really decided kind of against that and to just go with the flow and read whatever I wanted. And what may not actually seen this this book series and this manga series and the anime series in general does actually have a matriarchy in it. There is, within the wall system where they live, there is an actual king. Even though the king's probably not going to be featured in this book, I do know that the world has a king in it, so I'm going to count it for a book with a matriarchy. Very small. Who knows if I'll get to it this month or not, but it's at least going on the Feburary TBR. For prompt number 2, we landed on a normal book as well, and I pulled Farfetched, which is to read a book with a crazy magic system. And for this, we're putting on my TBR Jade City by Fonda Lee. I have heard nothing but great things about this book series from people. I've heard it essentially be summarized as sort of West Side Story, but more fantasy. So it says here in the back here, for centuries, honorable green-bone warriors have used magical jade to enhance their abilities and defend the island of Kikon from foreign invasion. Now the war is over, and a new generation vies for control of Kikon's bustling capital city. 4 siblings of the powerful Call family must prepare for battle, and the fragile peace between the clans is about to break. So I believe it's about these people who, on the island of Kikon, they are called Greenbones and can control the power of the actual element of jade, and it gives them special powers. But I believe there's an actual drug going around that's making it so that normal everyday people can also have access to the powder of jade. And so I definitely think there's a bit of a West Side Story clan rivalry in this series. I've heard a lot of people like the series. I've heard the books get really devastating. I'm not entirely certain if this magic system would be considered crazy, but in hindsight, from what I can tell, I think this magic system in this series would be considered crazy, since you're actually using an element to control the magic, but who the hell do I know? I'm just a booktuber, so I don't really know if it's crazy or not. To me, it doesn't sound crazy, but it works for this kind of prompt. We're going to count it, we're going to go for it. So, looking forward to reading Jade City. The next book that I pulled on this list was actually one of my random books, and I pulled Squirrel Meets World by Shannon Hale. I know nothing about this book. The only reason why I ended up pulling it is in my acorn jar are a list of books that I want to read whose rating is greater, is 4 point or greater. And this was one of them. I've read other books by Shannon Hale, and I think this is the reason why. It was one of the books of hers that actually had a 4-point rating. So I'm going to read you guys the description. Let's see. Who Wants the World? Squirrels. 14-year-old Doreen Green moved from sunny California to the suburbs of New Jersey. She must start a new school, make new friends, and continue to hide her tail. Yep, Doreen has the power of a squirrel. After failing at several attempts to find her new BFF, Doreen feels lonely and trapped like a caged animal. Then one day, Doreen uses her extraordinary powers to stop a group of troublemakers from causing mischief in the neighborhood, and her whole life changes. Everyone in school is talking about it. Doreen contemplates becoming a full-fledged superhero, and thus Squirrel Girl is born. She saves the cat from trees, keeps the sidewalk clean, and dissuades vandalism. All is well until a real-life supervillain steps out of the showers and curled Squirrel Girl, his arch enemy. Can Doreen balance being a teenager and a squirrel hero, or will she go nuts? So definitely a middle grade superhero fantasy. I do like superhero fantasies, so I'm really intrigued to read this one. From the way it sounds, I may possibly enjoy this, but from the way it also sounds, maybe it's a little bit too young for my taste. So we'll kind of see when I read this book. We'll kind of see what Sword offers. But I'm excited nonetheless. I mean, I haven't read a Shannon Hale book in a long time. It's been years. So if I do get a chance to read this book this month, who knows? Let's see. And then prompt number 4, we've landed on random as well. And that is and we pulled Brother Wulf by Joseph Delaney. Joseph Delaney is the author of He wrote that series? I think he wrote the Ranger's Apprentice series, if I'm mistaken, which is an old middle grade sort of book series that I read a while ago. And he read this other series that I read like the first book a while ago. I can't really remember what it's called. It's about this apprentice who's like the 7th son of a 7th son, and he has necromancy powers. I can't remember what the book series is called, but I remember reading that in like middle school and enjoying this. So I'm excited to read this one as well. From the title, it may be about Beowulf, but I'll read the description for you guys since this is the first book in the series. Alright. When young novice monk Brother Beowulf is sent to spy on Spook Johnson, he has no idea of the trouble he's about to find himself in. Johnson boasts to Wulf of his battles against demonic creatures and even seems to imprison local witches, though Wulf is skeptical, not least because the church has taught him that spooks are a force for evil and not to be trusted, but then the monsters Johnson claims to fight turns out to be very real indeed, and soon Wulf is forced to seek help from another young spook, Tom Ward, who terrifies and charms him in equal measure. But the forces of the dark are many, and it's not until Wulf and Tom realize they've bitten off far more than they can chew. A horrifying new enemy is rising, and only Wulf can stop it. So, it sounds really cool. I think the book series I'm thinking of is his Spook's Apprentice series, and I'm pretty certain I may have read the first one of that. But this sounds actually kind of right up my street, as far as it being sort of medieval and magic-y. Sound YA, which means it'll be a quick read. More and more that I read this description, this sounds like a book I'm actually going to enjoy. So that's really cool. And I remember reading a couple of Joseph Delaney books in the past that I did enjoy. For roll number 5, we actually pulled a book off my top 20 list, and that we got Legend by Marie Lu. This is the first book. I have read this book series before, a long time ago. I remember it to be a very quick read of this book series. It is a dystopian book series. I think also a Les Mis retelling for a book series. I think. But it's definitely a dystopian, which I love. Science fiction with a little bit of romance. Very cool. Probably since it's dystopian, it'd be a very quick read. So it says, what was once the Western United States is now home to the Republic, a nation perpetually at war with its neighbors. Born into an elite family in one of the Republic's wealthiest districts, 15-year-old June is a prodigy being groomed for success in the Republic's highest military circles. Born into the slums, 15-year-old Day is the country's most wanted criminal, but his motives may not be as malicious as they seem. In very different worlds, June and Day have no reason to cross paths until the day June's brother Matthias is murdered, and Day becomes the new prime subject, caught in the ultimate game of cat and mouse. Day is in a race for his family's survival, while June seeks to avenge Matthias' death. But in a shocking turn of events, the two uncover the truth of what has really brought them together, and sinister lengths their country will go to keep its secrets. So definitely dystopian. I'm pretty certain it's a Les Mis retelling, but I could be entirely off of that. It may be a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but I actually think it's a Les Mis retelling, which sounds really cool, since while I've never actually read Les Mis by Victor Hugo, I've seen the musical a ton of times to know the story. So I'm very actually excited to read this book again if I do end up reading it in the month of February, as it's been a long time since I've read this series, and I remember enjoying it when I read it. I remember it to be a very quick and fast read, which is always good. And I just remember having a good time when I read it, because I think I read it around Christmas, but I could be entirely wrong on that. So I'm very excited to read this book if I do end up reading it in February. And finally, roll number 6, we landed on normal. We pulled Mewtwo, which is reading the intimidating read. And for this will probably be the book that I most likely will end up reading February. And while this book actually isn't intimidating anymore, because it's going to be a reread, it's still intimidating in general due to the size. But in the month of February, I'm going to be rereading Priory, the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon in anticipation for A Day of Fallen Night, which is the prequel to this book series by Samantha Shannon. I read Priory, the Orange Tree back in October of 2022, and it got 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I'm going to be rereading this book in February, hopefully tabbing it. It's not technically intimidating anymore, since I have already read Priory of the Orange Tree, but this book will probably be the book actually from this TBR that I actually end up reading in February, as at the end of this month, when Day of Fallen Night comes out, you best believe it, I will be trying my hardest to get that book onto my March TBR. So yes, very excited for my reread of Priory, the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Not really intimidating anymore because I've already read this, but it's still a chunker of a book. So that is what my TBR looks like for the month of February. This does look very short, but you're all forgetting Priory is over 800 pages, and Jade City by Fonda Lee is about 500 pages as well. So while this TBR may seem a little bit small in terms of my physical reads, you are also forgetting books that I do not own. I don't own Brother Wulf, and I don't own Squirrel Meets World, so those books will be ebooks when I read them. I also don't own A Legend by Marie Lu either. Even if I don't end up reading these books in February, that's okay. I will, of course, read them when I read them, but they won't officially be on a TBR, again, video like this, if I don't read them until 2 months previous, till months after this. So if you see these books back in April, then it'll be okay. But I think for April, we'll probably have a different TBR video for me, and I won't be using my TBR Alchemist game, as I do know in April will be Magical Readathon again, so I will probably do a separate TBR video for that. So that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for this video. If you liked it, please give it a like and subscribe for more bookish content from me. Down below in the description box, you'll find links to all of my bookish stuff and things of that nature. Comment down below what you guys are having to be reading in February, and if you are going to be joining me on my reread of Priory, the Orange Tree in anticipation for A Day of Fallen Night. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and remember, we are the one within the all.